Hey everybody, and welcome to another Frost Reads Reddit. And today we have some interesting stories from a cute little hidden gem of a subreddit that I found while searching for spooky stories. It's called r/shortscarystories, and it's a bit of a tongue twister. But it also has a lot of older scary stories that I really like to read. Like an old favorite of mine called The Sound of Silence. It was posted about 5 years ago by Doverhawk. After a lifetime of being deaf, my best friend just received cochlear implants. When he woke up from the surgery, we were all standing around him, and his wife was the first one to say anything. He heard her voice for the first time and all at once began to cry. We all took turns speaking, letting him hear our voices and our names, and with each word we said, he became more emotional. When we were all finished, though, silence hung in the room. He looked up at me and asked, "What's that sound?" It took me a moment to understand what he was hearing, and when I understood, I told him he was hearing silence. He shook his head. "That isn't silence," he said slowly, hearing his own voice for the first time. "I've been hearing silence all my life, and this is different." Then a sound came from outside the hospital room, and he perked up immediately. "Hey, isn't that silence?" We all exchanged looks of trepidation around the room before I spoke. "No," I said slowly. "That was the sound of someone screaming." Spooky. And I know for a lot of people this isn't the sort of jump out of your skin kind of scary, but just think about it for a second. This person was deaf for their entire life, and instead of hearing nothing, they just heard the sound of screaming constantly. So much so that they thought that that was what silence was meant to sound like. Makes my fur go up thinking about it. I am partially blind myself, and it would be really freaky if one day I got a surgery to fix it, and all of a sudden I realized that I had been able to see into hell or something like that. It would be really weird. Anyways, now I did say there were gonna be 2 stories because that one was really short. So up next in our double feature today, we have 2, which was posted recently by Psychoptic Nerf. And I actually found this one when it was only about 7 hours old, so it's a really new story and it's a really good one. If this project has taught me anything, it's to never expect anything to go as planned. In one of the first months, the overseer came to monitor us while we set up the machines. Within 10 minutes, they executed the lead of our team in front of the rest of us before leaving without a word. Their message was clear. We are all expendable and replaceable. The next feverish weeks were spent fine-tuning the equipment and mentally preparing ourselves for the task ahead. Should anything go wrong during the procedure, we were all acutely aware that it would cost us our lives. And then we met him. The Messiah was old and feeble, unable to walk or breathe on his own. He was confined to something that resembled a glass coffin. So weak was his immune system that he could not risk being exposed to the air. He spoke through a projector. His words sounded sterile through the filter, but the sternness of his message was conveyed through his cold and unwavering eyes. We will succeed in conquering death. Next, we met 2. He was young, maybe 20 years old, a carbon copy of the Messiah himself. 2 did not know many words. He had never been treated any differently than an animal raised for slaughter, because in a way he was going to be butchered. He was to be the vessel through which the Messiah was to resurrect himself. 2 would have his consciousness transferred to the decrepit body while the Messiah would take over his, thus eluding death. As the final week before the resurrection arrived, we grew confident, and talk turned from the consequences should we fail to the reward and favor the Messiah had promised for our diligent and successful work. Freedom. A life outside the confines of the Great Walls. None of us had ever seen what it was like on the other side. But then it happened. The alarm blared. The the overseers were marching us to the operating room out of a dead sleep, unprepared and bleary-eyed. It could only mean one thing. The Messiah was at death's door. He and two were already in place. Though two did not have the mental capacity to understand what was transpiring, his eyes were frantic and wild. The pressure was enormous as we began the operation. The upload, the transfer. We were nearly there, nearly free. Nearly. And then a piercing ring, a nearly completed transfer. A hush fell over us all, so uncertain for the next tentative minutes. Then Two's eyes fluttered, and he slowly sat up off the table. The overseer knelt before him, exalted and praised him. We waited in transfixed wonder to see what the Messiah would say. But he had no words. All he did was scream. His eyes were staring at unseen horrors. Wherever he had gone, whatever he had seen of the afterlife, it had broken his mind. And only he knows what awaits us. Ooh. Okay, so a couple things about this one, and my first comment is gonna be that it's a really bad idea to try to cheat death. Seriously. It doesn't care about money or power or fame or anything like that, and it comes for all of us one day. And as for those who think they can outrun it or outwit it, I wouldn't suggest it, because the other thing about this story that gets me thinking is no one actually knows what's on the other side. There is always the chance that there is an afterlife, and that trying to outrun the Reaper could lead to consequences in that afterlife. Especially if you do it by essentially enslaving another person and forcing them to take your place. Anyways, that's it for this one. I hope you guys enjoyed the stories, and if you want to tell me what you think, leave a comment down below. I love reading your guys' comments. Until next time though, bye!
Oh yeah, I want to show our patrons some love too, because they're awesome. Their contributions help us to afford all the neat stuff we use to record. So thank you. And if you want to become a patron too, you can click the link down in the description. You'd really be helping the channel out, and you'd get a couple nifty goodies too. Anyways, if you made it this far in the video, then yay, you're amazing. By the way, subscribe. Please don't make a foxy beg.